I don't think I'm wrong when I say this, but this game sure felt more like 34-3, and I've got my reasons than the actual score 27-10. Welcome into the TexAgs post-game wrap, a game where Connor Wigman leaves before the half with an injury. We will try to hear from Jimbo and see what he has to say here in the press conference, but this show is brought to you by Higginbotham Insurance. You probably only think about insurance when you need it, but at Higginbotham, they think about your risk for you because they want you covered all year long. They start by listening and end with a custom solution that fits your needs and your budget. They do it all with car, with home, with health, the business, and employee insurance. Higginbotham's got you covered. Higginbotham is a place that leads with value so that your value leads. Call Tyler Smith, 979-871-3162, or visit higginbotham.com. All right, we'll take a 27-10 win. We'll take any kind of win after the last season. But this is a role reversal, at least in the first half for Texas A&M. It was the defense being dominant and the offense really having their struggles up until Max Johnson came in. And that's not a shot at Connor, who did get hurt, just the offense. And I think another display of Bobby Petrino game planning and making adjustments at the half. They came out swinging, and they had their two best offensive possessions of the game. Still a little concerned with the way the game started, where you have a little bit more settling for field goals and getting sevens. I am still perplexed. The defensive touchdown that was taken away, I don't have the benefit of instant replay. I had some people text me like, it looks like a forward pass. I don't know if it looked like a forward pass or not. To me, it looked like he had possession of the ball, took a couple of steps, and Tyreek Chappelle knocked it out. And then, of course, it ended with it being a touchdown for Texas A&M. So got my issues with that play. Obviously, the Reuben Owens fumble was costly. It kept Auburn in the game, but A&M answered that with some great defense, followed by a huge run by Amari Daniels. So let's talk about it. Is it a reflection of DJ Durkin's defense taking a step in the right direction? Or is it just the fact that Auburn's terrible and their quarterbacks are terrible? Might be a little bit of both, guys, because we have not seen this defense. How many they finished with? 7 sacks on the game. I think they had 6 coming into the season. They finished with 7. So they got 13 sacks now. Phenomenal defensive performance and some good adjustments, without a doubt. Let's bring in our crew to talk all about it here on the TexAgs postgame wrap, brought to you by Higginbotham Insurance. Brandon Leone and Chris Taylor joining us. And let's start things off with CT. CT, just your initial thoughts on how this one went down.
I thought it was a tale of two halves. You look at kind of the first half, 6-3 as you go in. You don't have a great feeling. It's like, oh, here we go again. But coming out of halftime, you didn't know what the status of Connor was going to be, but I think it's the beauty of having two guys that have experience. I think Connor is the guy moving forward. However, to be able to have a Max Johnson that can step in and have valuable experience, he's played in this league before, he's had success in this league before, and for him to be able to come in and engineer 2 drives of touchdowns right after the half, I think that was huge. I think it let our defense settle in. It really, I think, put the game out of reach at that point. Yeah, we had to fumble late in the third. That gave them a little bit of life. But I think that A&M, along that front, getting after the quarterback all day, the offensive line being able to, give us the ability to run at times. I think there's still some things that we need to shore up, along the fronts. But I think the second half, the way that the Aggies were able to come out, put this game away, play inspired, Max giving them the spark that we needed to kind of get us going in the second half. But you're 1-0. You're 1-0 in the league. Now you look forward. You've got an Arkansas team that's always been pesky, but 1-0 is always a better start than going the other way, especially in this league.
Brandon, your initial takeaways from this one?
One, just to start, SEC play 1-0 is critical. And like y'all both mentioned, a win is a win, and they're all hard to come by. And so you want to celebrate every one of them. I think I'm excited to see that we turn things around in the second half, like CT said. But I will say this: I don't want to be negative, but I'm trying to think, like, in my mind, pathway to a championship in conference. How do you get there? I think you don't get there by having slow starts on offense against the 2 Power 5 teams that we've played, right? Like, so I think I tweeted during the game in the first half, I think the offense is going to figure it out. Don't waste a good performance by the defense, because we started slow against Miami. We got some short fields. We took advantage of it and scored. We had some good starts this time, right? But like you said, because of some miscues and some penalties, just kind of a lack of execution on offense, we had to settle for field goals, and it felt like they were still in the game even though we were dominating it. And so we turned it on in the second half, and then the defense was consistent. This was their best game of the year by far. And Nuno, I agree. It's hard to tell if that was due to our defense being just that much improvement, from week 3 to week 4, or if it was a mixture of a team playing 3 quarterbacks and not really having a good option there. I think it was a little bit of both. Torian York, Edrin Cooper played a lot better at linebacker today. They were flying around the football, making good tackles. But I think I want to see us be consistent for 4 quarters on both sides of the ball before I get super confident about the direction of the season. So I don't want to be negative. I'm just thinking, analytically, like, man, what are the things that concern me? Because I know that talent is there if we perform to the talent that we have.
So here's a couple of things I'll say to that, because I do think Auburn is that bad. But let's not forget what the talk was heading into this game. The highest rushing team in the SEC heading into it. Hugh Freeze, the play calling, the amazing ability to get – and none of that was an option. And the talk about DJ Durkin. DJ Durkin's defense better show up. DJ Durkin's defense showed up, and I don't care who they're playing against because they were not getting after the quarterback in the first 3 games. Tyler Van Dyke, they got him twice, right? But, ULM had a different kind of offense. New Mexico did. The defense came after them. And I'm going to bring up this point. Peyton Thorne can throw the ball, by the way. He had 44 yards passing. As a team, they threw 4. You know how many? 56.
Was it an average 2.4 per pass? Something like that. It was super low. One of the stats, CT, go ahead. I just wanted to share this stat that was super encouraging to me from a defensive standpoint in Durkin. At the beginning of the 4th quarter, the Auburn offense started the second half with 4 straight punts and 8 punts on their first 9 possessions. If the defense can play up to that level and give this offense and Bobby Petrino opportunity to get in a rhythm with some faster starts, I mean, that's the thing that you want to see. Those are the things that are going to give us an opportunity to go win a bunch of SEC football games. So that was super encouraging. No matter who, like you said, Nuno, no matter who the opponent is, that's great defense and something we can build around.
CT, you want to follow that up?
Yeah, I just think that the way the defensive front played today, being able to get after the quarterback, we didn't always get home, but you had those quarterbacks so rattled that at times it looked like they were looking around to see where the pass rush was coming from. And if that defense can continue to play that way and continue to keep us in ball games, keep the score low, and we click on both sides. The offense was sluggish in the first half. We put some drives together in the second half. If we can get on the same page, especially with the road games that we have coming up in the SEC, we're going to give ourselves a chance to be in and win a lot of football games as we move forward. So was very pleased with Durkin's defense today. I thought the guys flew around. I thought they were physical once they got to the football, and they just harassed those quarterbacks all day. So great effort by the defense, and they gave us a chance to be successful today.
Whoever wants to take this, please do, because I watched that defensive touchdown play from the press box. I tried to watch a replay up on top of it. I was like, oh, he had possession of the ball. He took a couple steps. That's a fumble. Honestly, like, without us just going after SEC officials and putting them in a chokehold, why was that not a touchdown? I'm actually asking as somebody who saw it from the press box, who's completely confused.
And in today's game, you hear all the time, they have to be able to make a football move. Nobody still knows what that is to this day. And, I'm like, you, Nuño, I thought that he caught it. I thought he got a couple of steps down, and then the ball comes out. That used to facilitate a catch in the old days of football. But I guess if, you don't have it and you don't tuck it and make a move, then it's incomplete. And so, it was a forward pass, wasn't a lateral. I thought he caught it. I thought he got both feet down. But, it's that definition. What is a football move? He didn't have an opportunity to do that. So they call that thing back. Defense got us off the field. We didn't give up any points on that drive. But, yeah, it would have been a different ball game if that play stands. And I think A&M runs away with it at that point if that call does stand. But unfortunately, no football move.
Yeah, my thought was I just figured it was inconclusive. I mean, the call on the field was a fumble recovery for a touchdown. I just didn't think there was enough evidence to change the call. And so, it's SEC officiating has disappointed us many times before, so it wasn't anything new. They missed the pass interference to Anias. They missed the late hit on Anias on the sideline. There's a couple things they missed, but ultimately, like CT said, defense did what they needed to do, got us off the field, and kept things going. And so, Nuño, one thing and I know you're going to talk about it, Max Johnson, dude. This
Yeah.
just think about today's football world where kids want to transfer, or they want to bounce out and kind of go where they think they can play right away. This dude competed against what I think is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He never complained. He stayed positive. His preparation and attitude, I think, is just something that so many kids can learn from in the game today. And so I'm devastated to see an injury to Connor. It shouldn't have happened. We need to protect him better. Something else we can talk about. But to see Max come in, step in and have a game like that, and then his first completion, I think, was it to his brother or was it to Anais?
I think it was a nice his brother.
Okay, and then the touchdown to his brother, right? I mean, as a parent, y'all all know. Can you imagine that feeling? Dude, on Kyle Field, I'd be crying my eyes out. I was so excited for him, and he stepped in and did what he's supposed to do.
So Jimbo Fisher at the press conference 8 minutes ago says, "I don't know. We'll wait and see the X-rays. The X-rays were negative." So this is what Jimbo Fisher said at the press conference. Again, on Connor Wegman's status, I don't know. We will wait and see. The X-rays were negative. A couple other comments from him. He says, proud of this team. That was a hard-fought SEC victory, and a game that was unique in a lot of ways. Our defense never blinked. Let's take a few moments more on Max, too, because, to me, the turning point in the game, you could probably say that touchdown to Evan, which kind of felt like the game was out of reach. But to me, the real turning point was defense stopping Auburn right out the half, right? Because Auburn had an opportunity to take the lead coming out of the half. After they kicked that field goal, they get the ball back. They had a chance to come take the lead. A&M's defense stops them. And then what does Max do? The best drive up to that point of the game, and they get a touchdown out of it. And then what do? They followed up that beautiful dime to Evan Stewart for a touchdown. Look, Max is starting for Alabama and some other schools around the country. And currently, he's your backup, and you may need him for a couple more games. He beat Arkansas last year. You might need him to do that again next week.
Yeah, I think that's the difference that you see. You mentioned a team like Alabama, Max Johnson starting, for that team. But then you also look at the team that we played today, Auburn. 3 quarterbacks, a quarterback carousel. You can't really find who's going to be able to come in and spark that offense. And so, it's a shame, and it's never good when you lose your starter. But to have a backup like Max Johnson that can step in, that can come in and be a difference maker. He came in, he started the game 5 for 5, I think 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this is a backup. He had more yards than Auburn did at one point. And so, I'm happy for Max. I'm happy for that family that, you go Johnson to Johnson and with the first touchdown. But Arkansas won't be easy, but Max has been in this game before, starter at LSU. He's had an opportunity. He understands what he has to do. He's played in this league. So I think we have a real advantage just because our backup is able to step in. He has experience in these types of experiences. And I think you'll see Max play really well down the stretch.
Let me ask you guys about the offensive line, who did have some issues, I would say, going off sides, false starts, which bugs me. That being said, I felt like they kept the quarterbacks, other than the play in question where Connor gets hurt. For the most part, I thought they did a good job in pass protection. The run game wasn't necessarily phenomenal by any stretch, but Le'Veon Moss runs hard, man. He gets those yards forward. Just your overall thoughts on the way the line did and how the running backs adapted to that. Brandon, if you want to start it off.
I would like to see the offensive line clean it up. I mean, there are way too many penalties, like momentum-changing penalties in the first half that I think cost us to have 6 points as opposed to maybe 14. And so, again, I think going back to that, we got to start faster, and we can't keep having self-inflicted wounds. But overall, right, we almost had 200 yards rushing. Maybe we did. I know at one point it said 191 yards rushing. Le'Veon Moss.
193 yards rushing to 209 yards rushing, 193 yards passing. Continue.
Okay, so we had 200 yards rushing, which is good. Protect the quarterback more. I don't think that, the Connor injury is disappointing because it was probably avoidable. So they got to clean up, the blitzes. I did see Moss step in a few times today and pick up some good blitzes, which is critical, right? You and I talked about this on a segment, I think, during fall camp of who's going to be the running back. And we said it's going to be kind of by committee till someone settles in and we see someone be consistent enough to be down there at least 3 of the 4 downs. And Moss is kind of proven to be that guy. Like, he makes one cut and he gets upfield and he just falls forward. Like, he runs hard, he puts his head down. You like to see that, less hesitation. If he could continue to develop in pass pro. And same with Owens. Look, Owens had a huge fumble, right? That's a big deal that changed the game, at least for a few minutes. But he's a great player. I mean, he made some great cuts, made some people miss. But I think right now Moss is showing that he should kind of be the bell cow going forward as we head into SEC play. And the O-line continue to gel. It'll be good to have that run game going as we get into the more physical games.
CT, you want to follow that up?
Yeah, I think that, and to follow Brandon's point, the offensive line had its moments, but you still want to see them be dominant. I mean, I think I heard a number 6'5", like 330 across the O line, and you would think that we could get more movement in things along that front. And so, to Brandon's point, with Moss, I thought he ran well. He had a fumble early. I thought he bounced back really well and played well. Owens, nobody wants to put the ball on the ground. I don't think anybody intentionally wants to, but in those situations, ball security is king. So, even with Amari Daniels, man, we've got a dynamic group of running backs, and any of them just need a small space to be able to go. And so I think our line, they've got to improve. They got to get some things cleaned up. And I don't know if we remember that, we go down 3 and out, score touchdown, 3 and out, score touchdown, and we're on the move again, and then we get another holding penalty. And those are some of the plays that we've got to clean up with the holding penalties and the pre-snap penalties that can kill us as we're moving into tougher competition. So want to see that line get a little bit better, get a little more continuity, be able to be in lockstep. But overall, to be able to run for 209 yards, I think we're doing something well.
Guys, let's talk about the linebackers. They were a source of concern heading into this season. They have played all season long at a very high level. Torian York is the truth. I think he was credited with a half sack. I might have that number wrong. I know Walter Nolan had a couple, by the way, but I'm talking about linebackers specific. Edgerrin Cooper has been huge this year as well. Just your overall thoughts on what we've seen from the linebacker, CT.
I think the play of our linebackers is attributed to that D line. Last year we have a line full of 5 stars. We have high expectations, but when you think about it, they're just pups. You have guys that are 18 years old coming in to play the game, and now they've had an off season to get stronger. They've had an off season to get bigger and understand the college game a little bit more. And I think the linebackers are reaping the rewards of that. They're getting to be able to run free and to be able to get to plays. And, I think about it back in the days of the Rocky Bernards and the Ty Warrens. And, Dat was an amazing linebacker, but Dat had free runs because his D line was able to control that line of scrimmage. So I think Edgerrin and Torian are playing amazing. But I do like to contribute some of that success and them being able to run sideline to sideline because that D line has been able to keep them clean and give them angles to be able to run through and make plays.
Brandon?
Absolutely. I was going to talk about it. We talked about, I think, at the end of last game or Miami, just kind of like wanting us to have an edge and to be more physical. And I feel like if there was a position unit today that set that tone, going off CT said, man, the D-line, they were pushing, even with the 3-man front that we all been, oh my gosh, like they were eating people up. Like they were pushing the linemen back off their feet. I think that's a huge part why we got more sacks today. They were gobbling up double teams. They were having to be doubled because they were stepping into that 4- and 5-star talent. And so Cooper and York have been playing amazing. For York to be a freshman and be playing at this level already is so impressive. Like, kudos to that kid. But I was so encouraged today on the defensive side of the ball because of what our front did, even with only 3 guys down majority of the time. They were really playing to their potential, and that is the type of things that we're going to need at all levels of the football, right, on both sides of the ball, to continue to move through and win these big games in the SEC.
Brandon and CT, I appreciate your time, guys. We'll do it next week after the Arkansas game.
Later, guys.
Later. And I'll close up with these thoughts. Look, I know that offensively it wasn't pretty, and I know that defensively you're kind of like apprehensive because, well, I haven't really seen this defense. Maybe Auburn is terrible. I'm not apologizing for a dominant performance in the SEC against anybody. They didn't take on Vandy. They didn't take on ULM. They took on Auburn, who's got a head coach that all the talk was heading into this game. Hugh Freeze, he's good for one of those big wins, and that offense is going to be clicking. That offense was just as bad as we saw last year at Auburn, a game that A&M should have won. All right, and I don't have those stats in front of me, I should look that up because offensively or defensively, the A&M defense came up big today. They were big, and you've got to give them their props. I'm trying to load it up as I kind of spitball through here. But last year in the 13-10 game, I'm looking at the numbers right now. Team stats last year, Auburn had 330 yards. They passed for 60. They rushed for 270. All right. So passing wise, very similar to what we saw today. But the rest of it, not so much, my friends. The A&M defense got after the quarterback. The A&M defense didn't allow passes. The A&M defense really limited their rushing. They had 144 total yards rushing. But that being said, 59 from Brian Batty, excuse me. Jarquez Hunter had 53. They couldn't get anything going. You've got to credit the A&M defense there. The other thing is, this is now 3 straight years that a starting quarterback for Texas A&M gets hurt. Hopefully, this is not going to be a long-term thing for Connor. But it happened with Haynes in game 2 against Colorado. Haynes gets benched last year, and then Max gets hurt against Mississippi State. And really, Haynes got banged up the rest of the way. You've got to protect. In the SEC, you need multiple quarterbacks, and that's the beauty of having Max Johnson, a guy who would start on a lot of other places. But you got to keep your quarterbacks clean, guys. You got to keep them clean. And I thought the offensive line, for the most part, did a pretty good job protecting the quarterbacks. But you've got to protect them out there. So A&M wins this one 27-10. We'll do a Luchador podcast tomorrow. We will do the show, obviously, Monday through Friday as we turn our attention to Arkansas. And they got a big one against LSU, obviously. But again, A&M's defense, the story in this one. The offense has been the story in the previous games. Defense comes up big. Still saw them get juked a couple times. That's all right. They got the job done. That game felt more like 34-3. We'll take the 27-10. That's going to do it for the TexAgs post-game wrap. Our thanks to Higginbotham Insurance. We'll see you tomorrow on the Luchador podcast.